Welcome to Beyond Wealth, Success Unscripted with Matt Calnan. Discover the personal drive, professional journeys, and business strategies that have made a real impact. It's success from the inside out.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. Today we're chatting with Peter Pilarski, a versatile strategist with 20 years of experience in digital marketing, communications, and government relations. Peter is passionate about demystifying AI and helping individuals and businesses navigate the tech landscape with confidence. So first of all, welcome to the show, Peter. And can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and what you're doing?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for having me. So I've been for the last almost 10 years now running CIPR Communications, a digital public relations agency that I run with my wife. And so we do primarily sort of, public relations, digital marketing, websites, all the things. And then the last, I guess since December, I've been shifting a little bit. I launched something called the Tourism AI Network. And so we've been kind of working pretty hard on that. So most of my energy has been focused there, sort of developing our programs, our services, and sort of figuring out how to roll AI out to the tourism industry.
Interesting. So 10 years spent in that digital relations and PR, that has obviously shifted dramatically in the last couple of years with the onset of AI. What's that been like? And then we'll get into what you're doing on the tourism industry after that as well.
Yeah. So I often start. So I do a lot of public speaking, and I often start with a quote from Sam Altman from OpenAI. He was interviewed in a podcast, I want to say in about January this year, and specifically it was a marketing podcast. And in that podcast, the podcast host asked him, what happens when artificial and general intelligence hits the scene? And so, for context, artificial and general intelligence is a time when essentially these AIs will be smarter than humans across all functions. And be able to sort of do things on their own and sort of take actions on their own. And he said in that podcast that 95% of what marketers and agencies do will be intelligently automated at a fraction of a cost and done in almost no time. And so you look at quotes like that and you think, well, I don't know what the future of marketing is, so I better figure out what the future of AI is. So that's sort of why I decided to make the shift that I did when I did. I see the world changing very, very quickly. And especially in the marketing field, marketing is sort of, I would say, probably the earliest adopting industry when it comes to a lot of AI related stuff. And there's a lot of AI tools out there. So, obviously, Tourism AI Network is my way to stay ahead. For context, vast majority of our clients at CIPR Communications are in the tourism industry. So it made sense for us to continue expanding in the tourism industry where we have our favorite clients and all of our favorite work. So, I don't think we're going away as a marketing agency at all. In fact, but I think that what we provide for value for clients is going to be changing significantly, and there's going to be a lot of pressure on costs and value and those types of things. So I think the agencies that are at the forefront of this actually have an opportunity to capture a lot of value, and I intend to be one of those agencies.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, we've had some internal conversations actually with my team and surrounding AI, and this has actually gone on for the last year and a half probably, and it's certainly evolved a lot over those 18 months. But one of the things we talk about a lot is, do you understand what AI is? And I do, but do you actually understand the tools behind it? And no, because I'm not in that space and I'm not going to commit the time to that because I do something else, right? I'm in real estate in asset management for my, quote unquote day job. So we've always looked at it and said, we need that expertise to come outside of the organization because we are not going to dedicate the resources to be able to do it like the Microsofts and the Apples of the world will. So you guys have obviously made that shift or are making that shift. Are the other agencies also doing that, or are we going to see a big lag factor within that where a bunch of them are dropping off or just not servicing their clients properly?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. I will say that it's probably a mixed bag out there. So I think there are agencies definitely that are at the forefront of trying to figure this out, and there are agencies lagging behind and are completely technologically deficient, and probably a bunch in between. And so, I think it's the reality is everybody's trying to figure it out. And I can tell you, I'm going to give you an example just to sort of make it real for you in your world. We've been talking about AI, or not AI, content innovation. So we produce a lot of content for clients. That's sort of a main thing that we do. And
Like social
obviously
media
these
type content.
social media, blogs,
Yeah.
press releases,
Yeah.
infographics, podcasts, sort of any mode of content. And all of a sudden writing a blog using AI is extremely easy, right? I mean, you can do that in seconds. And so how do you innovate and keep adding value? I'm going to give a press release as an example. So, rather than me, getting the information from you, sending out a Word press release to the media and trying to get it picked up, now I can do an interview like this with you. We can record it on Zoom. I can put it into Descript. I can create a video out of it. I can create shorts out of it. I can put it into Lumen 5. I can create a dynamic video out of it. I can turn it into an infographic, and I can turn it into 25 social media posts in probably the same amount of time it used to take me to write the press release, right? So, that's an example of being at the forefront and providing value for clients, and using the tools to give more for, presumably not less. So we want to preserve our prices, but be able to add more value, because these tools will allow us to do that, right? And so,
Yeah, it's
those are
the
the types
value
of things
side.
I'm constantly thinking about in the agency side. I'm thinking way beyond that on the tourism side in terms of, enabling the industry. But yeah, that's just a good example for you.
Yeah, that is actually a really good example, because so I do use a back end team that we contract out for this, and we have shorts generated, and we have blog posts generated, and we have Facebook posts and LinkedIn posts. And I mean, maybe I shouldn't say this, but we don't do any of it. They do it on the back end, and they use AI for it, and that's what makes it more affordable to be able to do that. So it's a pretty efficient tool at I'll call it the mundane task, right? Writing a Facebook post is a fairly mundane task. There is some creativity definitely to it, but AI is pretty good at doing that creativity as well.
Exactly. Yeah. And there always needs to be a human in the loop. There always needs to be transparency about how it's created. Having authenticity and authority and all the things that Google talks about. I don't know if you know the EAT framework, but all these different things that are important are actually becoming more important. And so sort of, again, it's instead of a static press release, how do we now put a leader of a company in front of the media in a video and be dynamic? And so we've tested some of this stuff out, and I can tell you the media is really liking it, right? It's like, wow, this is really stood out as a pitch. Like, this really got my attention, that kind of thing, right? So, there's going to be a race to innovation in the agency space, and I think there's a lot of room to carve out value and niches and ways to do things, and sort of unique models and whatever. And I think it's exciting, but at the same time, like, I don't know what's going to happen in the agency world. I think there's going to be a shrinking in overall sort of number of agencies, and I think certain agencies have a huge opportunity to grow if they play their cards right.
Yeah, and I think, and I'd like your opinion on this as well, but I think over the last decade, there's been a lot of people that are social media managers that they know how to post on Facebook, so they're now a social media manager. And I see a lot of that being phased out, because why do I need that when I can go to Chat GPT and get it for free?
Yeah. So the interesting kind of answer to that is, there's sort of channel managers. So creating and distributing content over social media is I would say is an important part of the process, but creating engagement, creating conversations with people, building community online. So now our opportunity is to shift our attention or shift, we didn't have the time because nobody had the money to resources to dedicate to that kind of thing. Now we could do this part fast, so we could spend more time on that part. And that's actually the part that has the most value, is sort of building your community the old fashioned slow way, just like you would, building human connections type of thing. Right. So I think that's where I see the shift going.
Yeah. And that's where agencies like yourself, that's where you're going to thrive, right? And that's where some of those others might fall off if they can't get to that point, because no longer do I need somebody to be able to make an easy post, but maybe I still want you to manage it, but I want you to oversee all of that and from a larger scale now, because now you have the time. So let's say I'm paying, $700 a month for my social media content before. That might still be at 700, but now it's being adapted to add more value behind what's actually being posted out there.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So you talked about the quote from Sam Altman and the AI and the general intelligence and when they catch up. When is that?
It's a great question. Yeah. So
And
that's
nobody
like
knows it yet. Nobody knows it.
that's the big debate in the industry. So I would say that the estimates are anywhere from in the next 2 to 3 years to in 100 years from now. And so it's a very vague answer because
Yeah.
there's so much debate in the industry about it. I mean, I think that so OpenAI actually released, I think it was last week or the week before, a framework that they will use to sort of, I guess, analyze how well their system's doing. Sort of they came up with like 5 kind of definitions and things that they would sort of consider the path to AGI. And so it sort of gives a little bit of a parameter through which to sort of now measure the performance of these tools.
Yeah.
And they sort of, they sort of said we're just in the verge of going from step 1 to step 2 in their framework, and there's 5 steps in the whole framework. I think that's an accurate assessment. I like their framework. And step 3 is what's called AI agents, and that's really when AI can start to take actions on our behalf. So imagine, right now, imagine telling your AI assistant that you want to go to Italy next month and to search flights and check your hotels and create an itinerary, and it can just go do that stuff for you, right? It can take multiple steps,
and we trust it,
actions,
and we trust it to do that,
and we trust it. Yeah. And so I think that's really kind of the AI agents is the next big thing. And then they have these 2 other steps beyond there that are kind of weird, not even weird to me. I mean, step 5, just to give you context, is essentially organizations. So it's like essentially AI that can basically act as an entire organization and execute all of the functions. So like that to me is like a wild thought to even think about. But anyways, that's sort of how they define it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what's crazy about that though is like I remember when GPT kind of came out, and you were probably more on the forefront than I was, but I remember in December of 2022, that was when it was really getting a lot of buzz, and I kind of hopped on it, and I was like, holy shit, like this is kind of cool. Like we can do all this stuff, and it's going to answer these questions. It's going to write this for me. From December of 22 to now, in my mind, has been like a massive leap. Like what it can do now compared to then. So I look at those timelines saying, 2 to 3 years up to 100 years. I think it's got to be on the shorter line of that, just because of my interaction with it.
I kind of think so too. I mean, I think that again, I think that the timeline is so vast because people's idea of what AGI is so different. So,
Right.
As an example, like, it's not like the Terminator that's going to go and make its own decisions to, do all these crazy things and robots and whatever. But it's like, it's like intelligence that can take multiple steps and take actions and make decisions and improve over time. I think that's actually not that far away. So
yeah. I mean, one of the fascinating things I always find about AI is like, so we're on Zoom right now recording this, and they've got the little AI companion there, and that it just runs on my thing, and it comes up with questions that I should ask. And to be honest, I don't usually use those questions, but I kind of glance at them every once in a while, and it gives you kind of themes, and it's like, oh yeah, I should ask that. Like it's literally dissecting what we're saying in real time and saying, well, I know you're on a podcast right now, and you have a guest on this podcast, and here's what they're talking about. And so it's pretty fascinating.
Pretty incredible, right? It's pretty incredible.
In a pretty small amount of time. I remember I read something, oh, this must be a year ago now or something like that. And this could be one of those things where the internet made it up, and we all believe it now. But I think it was like at MIT or something that they used AI to create an AI of its own. And they initially anticipated that it would take like 20 years or something like that for it to be able to come up with it. And it did in the span of like 2 days or like something ridiculously crazy like that. And again, I don't remember exactly what the article said, but I think it was true. And I remember reading that and thinking like, well, you originally predict, 20 years for this or 7 years for this or a big number. And like that, it's just done. Like,
the reality is it's accelerating, and it's on an exponential curve. And right now, if you kind of follow the leading AI scientists, it's like the theory is, and there's nothing so far that's sort of been disproving this theory, is that if you add more energy and more compute and more data, you're going to get continued exponential sort of growth, right? And that's what is being seen right now. And so far, we've not seen an end to that. And so, I think there's two limiting factors. One is actual energy. So I think that energy is going to be a challenge, and AI accelerationists who are the people who believe that AI is a solution to everything, so we should just like accelerate it as fast as possible. Believe that AI will solve the energy crisis as well, right? So
Right.
we'll
Right.
see.
Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. But the other, I think, factor that's actually going to limit it, and the real factor that's going to limit is human inertia. Humans sort of they're not that quick to change.
Yeah.
I wrote a blog just the other day about how sort of learning how to use AI is kind of like physical fitness and training, right? Like you got to kind of pick something that you enjoy.
Yeah.
You got to sort of start small, and you got to build on it. You got to build habits. You got to, right. And so, that podcast or that blog came from I got a thing from Microsoft, and it was sort of like, here's 5 habits you can change around your email. And it's like, this is great, but I probably won't do this because my email habits are so entrenched.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas for things like turning a blog into social media posts, it's like that's not something that's a habit that I love doing. It's like I hate doing that. So it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, 100%. I will
Easy.
do that.
Yeah.
So similarly, like I hate going to the gym and lifting weights. I'm a boxer, I'm a mountain climber. I do all these that's my way of doing physical fitness.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
as
You
long
don't
as
want
you
to lift the
align,
weights.
yeah, as long as you sort of flex your AI muscle in ways that align with things that are either taking away pain for you, or creating enjoyment, or improving your quality of life or your work life or whatever, whatever, then you're going to probably adopt it over time. But I think that
Yeah.
we're going to actually, human inertia is going to be like the biggest limiting factor in this whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll give you an example of that as well that I just experienced is I was actually saying on the podcast that I recorded right before this that I failed high school English.
Hmm.
I was at 48%. I needed it to graduate. I was a pretty good high school student. I can't do English. It's just I don't get it. I had to go to my teacher and say, please give me the extra 2% so I can graduate, right? Like I'm going to university. I need
Yeah.
this done. Um, so I'm not good with writing. I'm not good with those things. And when we have podcast guests on, as you know, we have a little questionnaire thing that you go through, and one of those is, can you provide a bio for us? Um, I try to do a bio that's short and concise, 4 or 5, 6 seconds kind of thing. But I know that I'm not good at writing, so I don't want to take your bio and destroy it. So I use
Right.
AI for that. And
Yeah.
now it's just automated where it goes into a system. And
Yeah.
when the bio comes through, it just rewrites it for me to say, hey, here's the opening line, here's the closing line, here's everything in between. It'll take you about 6 seconds to read through, and there you go. So
Yeah.
it's one of those things where I hate doing that. I'm bad at doing that.
Exactly.
Perfect tool to use.
Perfect tool. So you're going
But
to
the things
use
that
it
I
that way, right? Yeah,
exactly, but
exactly.
the
Yeah.
things that I
Yeah.
enjoy, I might not necessarily
That's right.
automate
Yeah.
as much because I do enjoy doing that stuff, right?
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's
Yeah,
funny
it's
that you say that. I failed high school English too, by the way, and then I became a communications professional and a writer. So um,
it's
I could
all
tell you a
that
story about that, but anyways, yeah.
it's the Shakespeare and the verbs and the nouns, and
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can't
Well,
get
so
it.
I found out in the last 6 months that I'm dyslexic because my son got
Oh,
diagnosed,
okay.
and so
Interesting.
that's actually the context. And interestingly, AI is actually a superpower for a dyslexic person as well, because the things I'm really
Right.
good at, I can use AI to like accelerate, and the things I'm really bad at, it sort of can be a crush for me, right? So like
Yeah.
it's changed my life. I can tell you from as a dyslexic leader.
Yeah.
I use AI for all kinds of things, and it speeds up processes. And also, beyond AI, just things like talk to text and some of these technologies that are getting better and better, right? I
Yeah.
mean, it's like it's a game changer, right? So
Yeah.
yeah,
Massive. Massive. Yeah. Um, for companies that are out there, for reference, I run an asset management company in the real estate
yeah,
sector. So we work with investors, but we're small scale,
yeah,
right? We've got, I don't know, 8 people on the team or something like that, 9 people, I guess. What do companies like us do with this AI? Like, what do we need to do to be able to harness it? And again, I think I'm at the forefront of it for a normal person, which is probably
yeah,
5% of what you know, but probably 100 times more than my mom knows, kind of
yeah,
thing.
yeah, exactly.
What do companies do? Like, what do we need to do to harness this and really truly use it as a tool?
Yeah. So really investing in AI literacy is the key component to this whole thing. So I'll maybe kind of explain. I've built out through the Tourism AI Network something called the AI Adoption Framework, and it has 3 different phases to it. So first of all, I'll just say that I believe strongly that any technology adoption is a people and culture issue before it's a technology issue. So I've seen so many poorly executed technology rollouts in my 20-year career that it's like, it's crazy, right? So, in fact, there was just a case study that came out today from Chevron, basically saying we invested in AI and it doesn't have any ROI. And it's like, I think they just rolled it out wrong. That's my
Yeah.
sense of what I read.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so you got to think about people and culture first. So you got to think about education and training. So my AA adoption framework has sort of 3 different phases. Phase 1, there are 3 training sessions. And they're really designed around, one's like an intro to AI, just sort of getting everybody on the same page as to what it is, where it's going, where it came from, what are the tools, all that kind of stuff. And then there's 2 workshops that are really deep dives into like a ChatGPT, learning how to use custom GTPs, custom instructions,
Yeah.
sort of advanced use cases, all that kind of stuff. So it's really getting everybody equipped with using the tools and also comfortable just using the tools and giving them permission to use the tools, right? So it's important for actually companies to give their employees permission, because there's a lot of what's called shadow AI use happening right now, where people are using it, but they think they're going to get in trouble. They're hiding their use. They're using, and they don't know the rules of the game or whatever. So anyways, that's sort of phase 1. Phase 2 of my framework is what I call vision, culture, and process. And it's really designed for leaders of organizations. And it's really, I have 2 surveys. So one's a leadership survey around AI adoption and, help you kind of come up with an AI vision, come up with, some policies and some principles, help you create an AI council. So it's really kind of around the structures and processes around how to like think about AI adoption from an organizational perspective, setting some goals that are reasonable, that type of thing, right? And then phase 3 is what I call AI empowerment. And that's really deep diving at the task and job level, because the unlocks of AI's value are at the individual task and job level. So, back to this conversation we started with is like, hey, if I can help you create a custom GTP that takes something that you do that's data driven and repetitive from a 5-hour process to a 1-hour process, and we could do that across your job and then across your entire organization, there's ROI there. There's no question. There's, you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
But we got to kind of go through your processes. We got to understand what your processes are. We got to understand where to inject AI. And so that's my kind of whole framework. And so I take companies through this framework and sort of it's designed to take time, because culture change takes time, right? Change management takes time. So there's some
Yeah.
change management sort of built into the process, and there's some education, but the whole process is designed to get your team using AI right away. So you get an immediate ROI, building some structure and process around it, and then really diving deep on, okay, how can we unlock the value in your organization?
Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. And I think again, what organizations like me, that's what we need, right? We need the framework. We need to be able to see that and then help with that
Yeah.
implementation. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you talked a little bit about, you guys are really focused on the tourism industry. What are you doing in that industry?
Yeah, so I've actually just taken this framework that I described to you. My latest thing I've been rolling the framework out to a couple different tourism organizations, doing some pilot projects, things like that. But I've just pivoted my model to sell it through industry associations. So the
Okay.
idea there is to make it more affordable for everybody.
Yeah.
Makes more sense for me to have one client instead of rolling it out to individual companies. Makes it more affordable for the individual companies. So
Yeah.
I'm just in the process. I literally just finalized my model. I just like met with my AI team to say, is what I'm envisioning here possible? I got the A-OK, it's possible. So and so we're basically going to build it out. So my goal is to basically I have probably about 10 industry associations I've been talking to about the model, getting feedback, that kind of thing. And so my goal is to kind of build it out, start rolling it out basically like around September, October. In addition to that, I speak at a lot of conferences. So I speak
Okay.
to tourism conferences, and I'm, sort of keynote speak and do workshops and things like that. So
Yeah.
really
Kind of
anywhere I can
specifically
talk
on the AI setting.
specifically on AI and tourism. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've done a few also conferences for like tour, I should say communications groups. So
Okay. Yeah.
Canadian Public Relations Society and stuff, which is a little more around authenticity and engagement in the age of AI. So a bit of a different topic, but generally speaking, it's sort of AI for tourism. And while it's for tourism, really everything I teach, my whole model is as adaptable to any industry because the principles are all the same.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. No, it's very cool. So when you roll that out, do you have a target clientele? Have you been in discussion with those
Yeah.
clientele? Like what are you looking at there?
Yeah, so essentially it's tourism associations. And then within the tourism sector, there are sort of a few kind of subgroups. So there are, for example, destinations, or
Yeah.
destination marketing organizations. So that's largely what CIPR Communications are. A lot of our clients are like Tourism Kamloops, Tourism Kelowna, those types of groups. Then there's tourism operators. So those are like your hotel operators and your ski hill operators and your heli skiing groups and your fishing guys and all that kind of
Right.
stuff, right? And then there's actually the associations themselves, because they also have needs and staff and things they do that they would like to automate. So that's sort of how the industry
Yeah.
generally falls. And that'd be kind of generally the target audience, but
Yeah.
primarily through the associations. I've developed a like a revenue sharing model with them where they help me promote it, and
Okay.
then the more we sell, the more they make, and it's sort of a win for everybody.
That's smart. Yeah, it's really smart.
Yeah.
And you have a podcast of your own, right?
Yeah, so it's called the Tourism AI Podcast. So it's really just an extension of everything we're doing, and really it's my content play, Matt. It's as I mentioned, sort of it's my uh talking is my natural thing, not writing. So I talk, and then we turn that into written content, social content,
Nice.
shorts, and the whole thing, right?
Yeah. That's because guys like us that fail English, we can still talk. We just can't
We can still
write
talk.
anything.
Yeah, that's
I
right.
don't know what a verb
Exactly.
is, but we can talk.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
That's great. If somebody wants to learn more about what you're doing, follow your podcast, connect with you, where are they going to go for that?
Sure. Yeah. So I'd say first of all, probably LinkedIn is where I'm most active. So just Peter Pilarski on LinkedIn. You can certainly email me, Peter at ciprcommunications.com. And our two websites are ciprcommunications.com and tourismainetwork.com.
Awesome. Well, Peter, I'm fascinated with AI. I wish I knew more about it. I try to use it all the time. Guys like you, they just I'm in awe of it because you're able to kind of stay on the forefront of it. So I certainly enjoyed the chat, and I think people get a lot of value out of that. And AI is changing pretty frequently, so I think we might have to have an update in the next few months here and
For
see where it's
sure.
going. Maybe that 2 to 3 to 100 year timeline might be closer to like
Might just be,
six
we
months
might
or
just be
something.
there actually. Possibly, it's
Yeah,
possible we might hit that this fall, to be
exactly. Yeah,
honest with
we
you.
never
Yeah.
know. We
There
never
are
know.
some signs that are showing that we might just get there. So yeah,
Yeah, yeah, that
for sure.
exponential growth, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's awesome. Certainly appreciate having you on the show, and we'll check in with you soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, Matt.
Thanks.
You've been listening to Beyond Wealth, Success Unscripted with Matt Calnan. Want to be our next guest? Visit beyondwealthpodcast.ca/guest. See you on the next episode.